right, man. I'm here with my man Matthew Wagstaff, business owner, author, father. How you feeling tonight, brother?
Bless, bless, feeling good, excited about the podcast. Let's go. I love
Hey
it.
man, I'm happy to have you here, brother. I was thinking about you and I'm like, man, I gotta have this dude on the podcast. I remember you was doing your podcast. Are you still doing your podcast?
Yeah, but it's on a pause right now. I got all these ideas in my mind right now. I have a couple episodes I want to do, but the Live Long and Prosper podcast is still out there, but I haven't added any other new episodes probably out in maybe the last 3 months.
Yeah, that's what I thought, man. Cause I was like, I ain't seen nothing come up. But man, I love what you're doing. You're doing the coaching thing right now too. You've been coaching. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going great, man. This is my first full year of coaching young adult entrepreneurs, professional working individuals who are aspiring into leadership roles. And so it's just been an amazing year, a lot of learning. I'm looking forward to next year, just taking it up to another level.
That's what's up, man. So your theme has been like this whole live long and prosper thing. You got the Live Long and Prosper podcast. You turned the Live Long and Prosper into a book. Um,
Yeah.
so tell me, so tell me about your philosophy when it comes to living long and prospering. Like, how does that translate into your fatherhood, like philosophy of how you raise your
hmm
kids as far as live long and prosper?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so this could be a 5 minute discussion, or it could be a 50-minute discussion. It can go long. But
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago, I was really going through my self-reflection and just walks at the beach at Charlotte here in Rochester, New York, and just thinking about life in general and really trying to come up with what would be sort of the philosophy that I want to really paint the rest of my life out to be. And so, I'm still relatively young, late 30s. And at the same time, I wanted to be able to start to set the foundation for my North Star and really what would guide my decision-making process from here on out. And so as I was going through that process, I don't know where it came from or what, but this live long and prosper concept. And I don't know if I was watching Star Trek or, what it was, but it just resonated with me. And I started breaking it down to myself around living long and prospering. And I've always, well, I say always, I would say I've been more conscious of the fact that I truly value freedom over probably anything. And so what does that mean to me? That means that in order for me to prosper and be happy, I need to have a feeling that I can do what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want. And at the same time, in order for me to live long, also, I need to be very mindful of how my actions impact my legacy, which impacts my children, which impacts my wife, family, etc., and my community at large. And so when I think about overall live long and prosper, that philosophy is, again, two parts: is life longevity, physical life longevity, and sort of the energy. They say energy never dies, it just transfers. And so I want to live a long life physically. I want to be here for as long as this God has me on this earth. I want to be here. As long as it's his will for me to be here, I want to be here.
Yeah.
So I want to be in the physical. And I also want to be, I want my energy to live on past me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say live long, it's the physical and the energy side of me. And I want my children to benefit from the things and the actions, decisions that I've done in this life, so that they can carry it on, they can live long, and I can live through them, and I can live through my grandkids if they are blessed enough to have them. And I can also live through my actions and as how they impact the community that I'm a part of. It could be the physical community that I live in here in Rochester, New York, or Buffalo, New York, or it could be the virtual community of people who I engage with and interact with. And then
Yeah.
prosperity is essentially around happiness. And like I said, what gives me the most joy and happiness is the fact that I can create freedom for myself and for my family and for my community through my actions, if that be God's will. And so I want to live long and I want to prosper. I want to be happy. And I think happiness is an individual concept. I don't think that anyone can tell another person how to be happy or what to be happy about. I believe that as long as your happiness is not at the expense of someone else's happiness, I think that you are on the right path and you're doing what's best for you. And so that's my philosophy. The way in which I think about the choices I make for my children are about how are they going to impact them today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And also, how is that going to impact the happiness that I'm trying to have for myself, and then ultimately the freedom to be able to continue to live a happy life.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple of things I want to touch on. I wasn't going to get into it yet, but from your book, and since you mentioned like freedom, and I want to get into it right now. That's the first thing I have highlighted in your book or tab that I wanted to ask you about. And when you talk about how you value freedom, right? And so there's a chapter in your book that's titled "Freedom of Choice." All right, so you got a daughter, right? She's around the age of 19 or so, like 18, 19. How old is your daughter?
Yeah, she's 19, college daughter. Yep.
So 19, all right. How old is your boy?
9 years old.
9 years old. So you got a 19-year-old and a 9-year-old, right? So when it comes to, we're trying to think about these, like I talk about to guys all the time about how we were raised in a different time. Like our parents raised us a little bit differently. We try to be a little bit more progressive as parents and understanding, compassionate, all those things, right? So when it comes to freedom of choice, as a father, how far do you go with your kids when it comes to freedom of choice? Like how much leeway do they have in making their own decisions, and to where you say, okay, well, I'm making a decision for you? Like, where does that begin and end with you as a father for your kids?
Man, that's a phenomenal question, man. I think there's no right answer on this one. There's no right or wrong answer on this one, man. I think the thing is, for me, it's a spectrum, and I think it evolves over time. And so with me having a 9-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter, I think that I'm on two ends of the spectrum. There's a certain level of rigidity and certain level of guardrails you need to put in place for a child that you don't need to as much for an older adolescent or a young adult. And so as the children get older, the guardrails get a little bit looser, and you allow them to learn from their own mistakes or learn from their own life experiences. And so freedom of choice, I think at the end of the day, I'm also really big on the fact that they own their life. And so when it starts to feel like it's more about me than it is about them, that's when I have to kind of check myself and say, okay, Matt, you're trying to do too much right now. Is it about you trying to look good, or you trying to make sure that this happens, or is it really about them? And so that's when I start to make the decision to say, okay, should I just allow them to make this choice, learn from it, as long as it's not fatal? What's the risk? And again, it needs to be 100% or damn near close to 100% about them and not about me. And I have these sort of relapses all the time where it becomes more about me. So for example, my son is playing football, his first tackle football year. And as a proud father, you're like, yeah, I want my son to go out there and I want him to be, doing all these things, these amazing things, but that may not be exactly what he wants to do, right? I may want him to play receiver because that's what the position I played. Or I may want him to play a certain position, or I may say, you are going to do this, but that may not be what he wants to do. It has to be really what he wants in that space, and he'll learn and he'll figure out what works best for him. I think the same thing happens for music. My daughter plays the piano, and I was really adamant on my son playing the piano because I just thought it was a great skill. I wanted to play piano. I still want to play piano, but he wanted to play something else. But now he's experienced the violin, and now he's working on the clarinet. And then we had a conversation not too long ago, maybe about an hour or two ago. He said he wants to learn piano, and so he found his own path there and that own space there. And so I say all I have to say, I think that it evolves, one, based on the age of the child, and two, I think it evolves based on the severity and being honest about, who is the choice really for? Is it for me or is it for them? And when it becomes more about them, and you really kind of let go a little bit, you understand this is a development opportunity.
Yeah.
And you don't want to strip them from the opportunity to learn from things, because I know, when we were teenagers, I know from my personal perspective, like nobody could tell me nothing. I was like, I'm out here learning my own, my own way.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely one of those things where you kind of have to really be introspective, reflective, and say, okay, you got the freedom to choose. God gave us all the freedom to choose. I'm your father. I'm here to protect you. And at the same time, I'm going to give you a little bit of more leeway as you get older so that you can learn from those mistakes. But then also, playfully speaking, you can make your own decisions on certain things as long as it's not catastrophic to you. I hope I try to address that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Like I would imagine you'd say that when it comes to being prosperous, a part of that is being able to have that freedom of choice and make your own decisions and even fail, and me giving you, and me just being there to support you when that happens. Not trying to necessarily prevent failure or anything, or prevent heartbreak or any of those things.
Yeah.
But to let it happen naturally, because it's a part of life. And I'm gonna be, as your father, I'll be here for you when those things inevitably happen. Have you ever, go ahead?
Well, that to that point though too, I was just having a conversation with myself, and do this a lot. I have a lot of conversations with myself about control. And so, when you let go of control, it's amazing how much freedom and happiness you experience. And so it's easy for us to be super controlling, need to control everything. And so I was running another experiment today in terms of how much control can I let go. And so this is a funny. It might be kind of funny, but it's silly at the same time. So we just got a new kitten. And if anybody knows about cats, they are everywhere. They jump on all stuff, especially kittens. They like vertical planes, and they like to jump up on certain things. And I was dead set adamant on this cat cannot jump on our dining room table or our kitchen table. And so today, me running this experiment about letting go of control, I'm sitting there going through my morning routine at my kitchen table. I got my coffee. I'm looking out the window, just reflecting and just in my vibe. And then here comes Kiara, my cat. She jumps on my lap, and then she's trying to get up on top of the table to look out the window with me and all these things. And I'm just like, you know what? Let her fly, let it go. And so she gets up there, she's on the table doing her thing, and she's looking out the window, hanging out, and she just sits down and just chills. And I'm like, that's not too bad. And like, I got a wood table. When it's time to eat, I just wipe the table off, clean the table off. It's like, It's not a big deal. Like, let go of that control, and just, I felt a lot better. And I felt, my morning, I wasn't stressed out about it like I would have been maybe a week ago.
Yeah, where do you think those things come from? The need to control, kind of arbitrary things, or things that don't really necessarily matter in the grand scheme of things. It's like, you had this idea, you said, of I don't want the cat jumping on the table, but not necessarily knowing like where exactly that came from as far as like the principle behind it or anything. You're just like, that was your thing. Like, and how do you overcome that, you think, when you the letting go of control for you?
Yeah, man, it's a hard thing, man. It's conditioning. Like, you maybe parents may have been controlling. You may have had big brothers, or you may have had just people who you respected that were controlling. I don't know. It's social conditioning, I want to say.
Yeah.
You may have an employer or a boss or whoever you had in your life that had that trait. It may have just been in you for many years. And so for me, it's just kind of like going through the experimentation and just all the pain that goes through that comes from experimenting. So this morning when she jumped on my lap, I know she's going for the table. Here's the test. Here's the test. And then she jumped on the table, started walking around a little bit, went over to the window, and then sat on the window pane right there. And I was like, it's not catastrophic. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, and who cares? Like, it's my table. Like, if somebody has an issue with my cat on my table, that's something they got to deal with. That's not my problem.
Like, why am I causing myself stress? Like, trying to control these things that don't really need to be controlled.
Exactly.
How many? Have you ever had like a situation like that where like your daughter's 19? I'm sure she has her own opinions and ideas about how life works, and maybe some of those opinions and ideas are different from yours. Like, how have you ever had a situation with your daughter where you felt like, okay, where you needed to take control and she wanted to do something different and there was like some conflict there? How do you resolve that?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, we always have these conversations about, she's going through her growing pains, and so I let her go through her growing pains. To be honest with you, again, as long as it's not catastrophic, I say you got to figure it out. The one thing that I'm really big on with her in particular, and I will be with Mason as he gets older, I'm super big on being able to live past me and being able to sustain yourself past me. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm gone, like back of my mind is always like, how can she make this decision when I'm gone? Yeah. And so whether it's wanting to buy a car for the first time, picking colleges to go to, all these things, making financial choices, is like, okay, how can I give her enough of my life experiences so that when I'm gone, she at least have something to draw from and help her make that decision. And so like, it was a tough decision we had to make about her college experience and where she would go, because I'm personally dead set on not having any debt, any college debt. Like, I don't believe that you need to have undergraduate debt. I don't think it's valuable at all when there's so much free education available that you can get. And so that's not to knock anybody who has undergraduate college debt. Everybody doesn't have that luxury. I just don't believe in it when I know there's alternatives to not have it. Mm-hmm. And so she wanted to go to a certain institution where she was going to incur some debt. She had other options where she wouldn't incur some debt. And so we went through that process, the growing pains, and I just flat out, you just put the options on the table, and you let them know, like, listen, this is your decision. Just know that you're gonna have to live with these decisions. I tell her, funny, I say, I'm good. Like, I've made these decisions. I live with the good decisions and the bad decisions. I'm in a good place now. Thank God. You got to make some decisions. You're going to have to live with it one way or another. So I've tried to explain to you why we want to go this way, but if you want to go the other way, that's your call. I don't know if that resonated with her or that really, if she took hold to that out the gate, but eventually, we made the decision, and now she's going to where she needs to go, and she doesn't have any debt, and she won't graduate with any debt unless she wants to. Mm-hmm. That's just one example of kind of just saying, okay, bigger scheme. If you want to be free, you want to be in control of the way you move, how you move. You want to have as less debt as possible, unless that debt is like being used to get your freedom. For example, if you're buying, using debt to get cash generating assets, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
For the undergraduate degree, it wasn't something that I was like, yeah, go get debt, go get $50,000 a year in debt because you want to get an undergraduate degree. Yeah. And no knock on undergraduate degrees too. Like, I'm degreed up, so I believe in education. I just don't believe in debt.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Is there a line is there a line where you say, when it comes to making those decisions, like you said, I'm gonna lay the information out for you, but I'm gonna allow you to make your own choices, right? Is there a line where you step in, like, and say, all right, I've given you freedom to make your own choices, but this is where the buck stops. Like, I'm not letting you do this, or is it just like, hey, she's at an age where it's trial and error. You learn. I'm gonna lay it out for you, and I'm gonna let you make your own choices, your own mistakes, and whatever. Is there a line, or you let it go?
Yeah, there's no line now. I mean, at this point, at 19 years old, and Madison, if you're listening, already know what I'm gonna say. Like, you make your own decisions. Like, I can't control you or tell you what to do anymore. Yeah. Like, you don't live under my roof. Only thing I can do is not enable it by financing it or giving it extra attention. Otherwise, you got free reign to do whatever you want to do at this point. I mean, I'm just hoping and praying that everything that we put into you, actually catches root and you make some good decisions. When I say good, I mean the decision that's going to be in your best interest. And so I have more control, and I can draw the line with my son because he's under my roof, and we have a lot more influence over his moves and control over his moves. But with her, it's like, hey, this is the information. This is your decision, 100%.
Yeah.
On
So
everything, on
yeah,
everything.
that's what's up.
Dating, whatever the case may be. It could be anything.
So you talked about, we're talking about finances and you talk about financial freedom as one of those things that you talk about when you're talking about the whole concept of freedom, financially free, debt free. Like, what tools are you using to teach your kids about finances and how to be like prosperous in that area?
One is just having the conversations around money and business and investing, just creating the environment where we can talk about it. There's no magic pill that I have that says read this or do this, but I've just been sort of just dripping into their life, over the last 9 years for my son and 19 for my daughter. They're both young entrepreneurs, and so we stress the value of owning your own business or having a business that can actually produce cash for you to fund your goals. And so continuously reiterating that to them and making it fun to say, okay, all right, Mason, you have a goal that you want to go to Disney World. All right, well, how are we going to pay for this? This isn't just mommy and daddy go to work and we buy you a Disney ticket. No, how about we create a business and you actually create something and sell it and buy your own ticket?
Yeah.
Like, if we're not funding we're not funding we're not funding your wants. We are funding, we'll take care of the needs, but we the wants, we gotta just figure out a way to get creative and create some skills that's going to live past us. And so business enablement, the young entrepreneur marketplace that I created here in Rochester is just another mechanism to support not only my kids, but other kids to be able to explore entrepreneurship and learn life skills. And so I've been super fortunate and blessed to be able to have both my kids be a part of it, as well as create a network and community of other young entrepreneurs. And so that's the second one. And then kind of just living it as well. And not kind of, but actually living it from an investment standpoint. Both my kids have custodial accounts, investment accounts. They both have savings accounts and emergency funds. I mean, they all have the things that we talk about. Yeah. So all those things are planted over time, and just continue to reiterate and stress to say, hey, in order for you to have the freedom that you want to have, this is some of the foundational things that you need to make sure you are aware of and mindful of and execute on.
Yeah. Okay, that's dope, man. I'm trying to teach my kids the same thing, man. Just like, and it can be hard. My son is 9 and my daughter is 8. But like, sometimes they learn and sometimes they not. And it's like they have these different personalities where I think my daughter, she gets it a lot, and they're polar opposites, right? So she's big into, like, she's more conservative with her money. Like, so one of the things we do is we play blackjack, right? Sometimes. Okay. Like, and you could see, I think that's a good game. We actually play with chips. So I'm the dealer, and like we play with chips. I give them a certain amount of chips and we play blackjack, and I could see like their financial, like how they think financially by how they bet. Right? Like my son, he's like in a real aggressive bet. Like he'll bet everything. Like he want the big win, and he'll take the high risk. My daughter, she's like, I'll put one chip out there. But like, I'm about to risk all my chips. So no, like, and it's crazy just to see how they operate. And
oh my gosh,
it's at 9 and 8 years old, how different they are. And as far as their money, like they, even with the game, my son, he's like, like, I don't care if they can earn money doing certain things. And he's like, man, I'll spend all my money on a new skin for Fortnite. And even he's like an impulsive buyer. Where where my daughter's more like, I think, do I really want that? No, is it worth it? And do you think with your kids that there's a certain mindset that they already have, like that they just inside of them, innately that they have, that it is who they are, that you can't, no matter what you try to teach them, it's like that's who they're gonna be?
I think there's a certain level of molding that can happen with them. But to your point though, man, I mean, like when we play Monopoly, for example, my son, he is more conservative in terms of like buying property, whereas I'm going around the board, I'm buying everything. I need all the property. Give me all the assets, right? He like, I don't really want that. My daughters are like kind of like in the middle a little bit like that. And so it's real funny to see them in terms of like when they're ready to buy. My daughter, she likes to save her own money, but she likes to spend other people's money. And so that's real interesting how that happens too. So I'm just like, okay, well, what does that mean long term? So I got to chew on that a little bit. My son is super, super generous. Like money to him is like whatever. I'm like, all right, we want to get mommy something. He's like, sure, yeah, let's go buy her whatever we want to buy. What you want to buy her? You want to give this person some money to do that? Sure, go ahead. Here you go. I say, hey Mason, can I get a couple dollars just to, just give your dad a couple dollars. Here you go, Dad. You're like, it's not like no. So I see that generosity in him for sure. And so it's just interesting to see how they both are. They are both individually unique. And so let go of that control, let them do their thing and learn from it, and they kind of evolve on their own for sure.
Yeah. That's crazy because my son's named Mason too, right? And like he's super generous too. And like we'll go somewhere and he'll like I remember we came from my daughter's track practice one time and we're going, we went to stop and get some pizza. And he's like, he's like, can we get another pizza and a water? Like he's ordering more, but and I'm like, yeah, what you mean? What you need? What we need another pizza and a water for? He's like, it was a homeless dude outside that looks like he's hungry. And he went outside and asked the homeless dude did he want some pizza, and like he was like, no, I'm good. But my son still wanted to get him water anyway. And he's like, all right, we'll get him a bottle of water. And we went outside and we couldn't find him. And he was so sad that he wasn't out there when we went back outside. And I drove around and we actually found him. And he's like so excited, hopped out and gave him the water. And but my daughter, she's a little bit more like stingy with that kind of stuff. Like with her stuff, if you ask her like I see you got a couple of little dollars in your little purse right there. Like, you know, let daddy borrow something. She'd be like, I don't know if I'm giving up my money.
You too?
But she'll create something like a craft or, like she's really still thoughtful, but she's protecting her own like assets more. So it's like, but she'll create something for you in a heartbeat. She'll spend all day making you a card or something, but some of her money. She's like, you know what, that's daddy, that's my money.
That's funny, like how that happens though too, because Madison is the same way. Like she want to keep her own, but she'll like volunteer for the Girl Scouts and do something, or want to give away some of her bracelets or necklaces that she made to like the Breast Cancer Institute or like Roswell. So it's just like she does a lot of like sweet things, thoughtful things. But when it comes to that old coin, it's like nah,
this mine right here. I ain't even mad at it. I ain't even mad at that.
No, I can't. She'll evolve over time for sure. But it's a different era too. They grew up in their parents were in different financial states too that they saw. So my son saw me older in a different financial situation than my daughter saw me as well. And so that may have something to play. That may have something to do with it as well. But who knows?
Yeah, that definitely makes a difference. Like, and which leads me to like something else I wanted to talk about, highlighted in your book. It's a chapter where you're talking about, one of the things you talk about is like adding value, and you talk about reducing the risk of losing value. When you're talking about, you talk about learning from the mistakes of others, right? And that's one thing, I tried to do as a kid, just be observant. And like when it came to fatherhood, I watched my father. Like I learned. I feel like I was blessed in that sense where I was able to look at things that I didn't want for my life, and not repeat some of the same. I still repeated some of them, but some of the mistakes I was able to avoid. What mistakes did you see growing up that you were able to learn from as an observer that you took into your life and fatherhood?
That's a great question, man. And I don't know if it's necessarily were mistakes, just things I may have advised to do different. I mean, there's a line in the book around, hearing the statement growing up of spend the money, you can't take it with you. Like I heard that a lot growing up. Like spend the money, you can't take it with you. You can't take it with you. I'm like, well, even though I can't take it with me, that doesn't mean I can't hand that on down to the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of a selfish way to think about life. And so hearing that is something I was like, nah. When I get older, it's like, I'm not going to just spend the money because I can't take it with me because it ain't about just me.
Yeah.
You know, and then just trying to be as mindful as possible about like the ripple effects of my actions. And, you know, that's that you make these choices about, in particular, like relationships and people who you try to create relationships with, and just observing how I saw parents and others like with the relationships in their lives.
Yeah.
And then seeing like, okay, what's the impact of the way this relationship is being managed versus if it was managed differently, and what can I learn from that? And so just those sort of things, because one of the biggest, I think one of the biggest assets a person can have is having a partner, in particular, either a husband or wife who's on the same page as you. You guys are together.
Yeah.
You have a common vision, common goal, stability in the family. I think that's a huge asset for you, for any individual, for any person. And so I made sure growing up that would be something that I would aspire to. I tell people all the time, I say, well, I told my wife this, I said, it's one and done. Like, ain't no more after this.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make this work until the wheels fall off. No matter what happens, we're making this work. So, you know, just those things are just kind of things I keep an eye out for and be mindful of.
Yeah. What do you think your kids are having? So let me ask this first. So do you have any habits or any things about qualities or things about yourself that you could say, man, here's something that I've been trying to improve, or, you know, that I've been growing even through as my kids are growing, or habits that I want my kids to look at me and say, I want to do that differently than daddy. Or like there's a habit that I don't want to pass down to my kids. Do you have any of those?
Where do I start, man? The list is probably, I don't know, the list could fit in this room. There's so much stuff, man. I mean, I'm impatient as all heck a lot of times, you know, being able to actively listen, you know, selfishness, and all these things. You're just trying to like, oh gosh, all these things that just keep popping up. The desire to need to do it right and be perfect, and, you know, just the rigidity and like it has its value, but I don't necessarily want to pass on that. That's not freedom. Like, that's why I'm trying to get rid of that control. I'm trying to loosen up that control, like that controlling spirit. It's something I absolutely want to not pass on. I want them to be able to have that balance. Like, I don't want them to be too far left, too far right. I would love for them to be balanced in their approach to things and be able to pull out the proper tool at the proper time. And so, like, there's a place for selfishness. There's a place for confidence or overconfidence. There's a place for being very rigid, and there's also a place to be more humble, more fluid, kind of letting things flow. And so empathetic. I've definitely got to work on my empathy more. I shut down. Like, I don't do well with deaths. I don't do well with like sad stuff. Like, I'm horrible with that, and it's not. I don't even know how to fix it. I'm trying to figure it out. So I want my kids to be more empathetic. Than I am at this moment. And, you know, well, you know, there's a lot of things. Like, I tell you, the list could go on and on. Take more risks. Like, I take risks now, but I feel like I could be doing more. I'd be taking bigger risks, and I want them to take more risks. That's why I want them to have that freedom.
Is that something you talk to them about? Like, some of the, you know, the things that you want to work on in your life, and like how you want to see them do things differently? Is that something you have? Those the kind of conversations you have with your kids? Do you have those?
Yeah. And like I said, the conversations are different based on the age. So like, conversations I have with Madison are different than Mason, but the spirit is essentially around the same thing. And the good thing is we all have a good support system around us, like my wife and just our family and the people who we're around are super supportive. So that's a blessing to have that too.
Yeah, I know. So I know a lot of us had like old school parents, man, and when we talk about, I remember a situation the other day when we talking about communication with our kids and like, do we talk to them about certain things and like where our shortcomings. I noticed that like, man, I'm, like you said, we've been almost indoctrinated or like, groomed to be a certain way growing up. And, there's certain things that my parents or my grandparents that if they saw when they see me parenting or see my kids behaving in the same certain way, they like, it's like they're triggered, more than, and they like, man, what? Like they would never accept these certain things. Like, for example, I was trying to say something to my son. My son has a problem with accountability. All right. So like I was saying something to him the other day. This was like last week. And he was like, well, what about you? You're not perfect. And I was like, immediately, bro, I was immediately triggered. Like, and to my 9-year-old son, like I'm trying to correct something that he's doing. And he's like, well, what about you? and my first reaction was like, wanted to be like, motherfucker, like, who are you talking to?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that was my internal reaction. And then I had to take a step. I had to pause. I had to take a little breath, and I had to be like, you know what? In my mind, I'm like, okay, he's right. I'm not perfect. Okay. But where do I take this conversation?
It could go one or two ways.
It could go like, and in my, there was no way I would have ever been able to say anything like that, growing up. Like there was no room for that. And, so I'm like, okay. And that was an opportunity and I had to use that. And I feel like that's kind of like what's different in a sense about like our generation, that we're trying to take those opportunities to be better and allow our kids at that space, but like teach them how to do it respectfully. And I'm like, okay. All right. I was like, you know what, man, you're right. I'm not perfect. And I was able to, and I talked them through how I handle not being perfect. Right. And I was like, I'm not perfect, but here's what I think is the difference between how I handle things sometimes and how you handle things. And I said, I'm a mess up, but when I mess up, I try to own it. I apologize. I'm not going to be perfect. Sometimes I raise my voice. Sometimes I respond in a way that's not who I want to be, but I'm human. Right. But when that happens, I apologize. I own it. I try to get better and I make up for it. And this is what I'm not seeing. I haven't seen you do. Right. Like, and just try to have that conversation with him.
Yeah, man. That's right there. That's so cute. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off right there, but that right there, the role modeling is huge. Like the fact that you role model how two men can have a conversation, or how two males can have a conversation with each other without it getting heated, but you stated facts and observations and not just all these, that's just huge right there. So I apologize. I just wanted to make sure we caught it. We didn't want that. I didn't want that fly over our head. Like that role modeling is huge.
Yeah, man. I'm trying, and it's a constant, like, it don't always go that well, especially like with a kid who's young and very opinionated and is willing to just speak his mind and speak freely. So like, right now, just trying to mold him or just guide him in a way, like you said, model what it looks like, right? Because I can't mold him, right? I can try my best, but he's going to be whoever he is. Like I can try my best to try, like I have to let go of control. Like you were saying earlier,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm going to do my best to mold and shape with my example and with my guidance and let go of control. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be who he's going to be. And I hope and pray that he's, it's okay. Things turn out all right.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, letting go and letting God is definitely huge. I would say the one thing or another thing that I'm working on to that point around giving up control and role modeling is that I need to do a better job of trusting their
Mm,
love and respect, their love and respect of me. And
mm,
so trust the fact that your kids love you and respect you and that they're going to follow the guidance that you display or that you tell them. So, or that you share with them. And so I got to do a better job of saying, yes, both my children respect me. They both love me. They don't think I'm a fool out here just acting up. And so
mhm,
when I do certain things, it means something.
mm,
When I say certain things, it means something and it resonates and it's filed mentally, even though they may not immediately display it. It's a mental note and it's filed back there that may pop up, a little bit later. And so yeah, I got to do a better job at that, trusting that love and respect, and something I would encourage other people to think about because the
yeah,
kids do respect us and they do love us
yeah.
if we're doing our jobs.
That's a good one, man. Because I was just I do leadership workshops, and one of the leadership workshops I do is on like uh, crucial conversations, right? Like, and based on that, the book Crucial Conversations, and one of the elements of that is like when we get you mentioned the facts, right? Like stick to the facts or start with the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when we get frustrated, and even same, I do it too with my son. When I get frustrated, it's more so about the story that I've told myself is happening right now. That
Mm-hmm.
that you're being boom, you doing that. Oh, you gonna disrespect me? Like you disrespecting me like that? That's the story that I've just told myself. Right. And like
Mm-hmm.
really, when really he's not trying to be disrespectful at all, really. He's just like
Mm-hmm.
he's acting based on his feelings and his emotions and what he believes is his truth. Right. And so I have to acknowledge that, like you said, I know they respect me as a father. So what's really happening right now? What story am
Mm-hmm.
I telling myself? But it's hard to do in the moment, right?
Yeah,
Because we're
yeah.
human. We're
And what is it
human.
about us that we're
Mm,
seeing in that moment, right? It's like the four agreements. It says don't take anything. One of the four agreements is don't take anything personal.
love
And
that.
so whatever you get ticked off about is more about me, the person who's receiving it, than it is the person that's giving it. And
Hmm.
so, I have to sit back and say, damn, why am I triggered by that? Like, what happened in me
Hmm.
that made me that trigger? There's something in me that's
Yeah,
making me upset about that. It has
yeah,
nothing to do with them. Like, they are just the stimulus to what's happening inside of me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What do I need to explore here? And I think that a lot of us, as there's a lot of parents that are not as that introspective. They're like, okay, and looking at it that way, like it's more so like, okay, you got a problem, kid, and you need to fix it, right? As opposed to what's happening inside of me right now that, like you said, that I'm taking this personal. And if I'm using another one of the four agreements, that I'm making some assumptions here too. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
not to. And if you listening to this podcast and you don't know the four agreements, like the four
Huge.
agreements are to live by, right? And I think they did come out with a book, The Fifth Agreement. And
Ooh, I
um,
gotta check that out.
oh man, I wish I could remember it right now, but I can't at the moment remember
Oh
the Fifth
man.
Agreement. But there's a Fifth Agreement.
Okay.
And they wrote there's a whole book just on the Fifth Agreement. Um,
Mm.
and I hate that I can't remember it, but it's a good one too. So yeah, check out the four agreements and then the fifth agreement as well. But but yeah, man, I and that's one of the reasons why I love doing this podcast, because just talking to guys like you and just more opportunities to be introspective and be like, all right, man,
Mm.
where can I make some adjustments? And it's that accountability factor as well. Like, man, that knowing that I'm not perfect, man. Anybody, like I said, listening to this podcast, because I'm doing this podcast and hosting this podcast does not mean that I am perfect in any way. I mess up all the time, and I just got to own it and be aware of it. Try to get better. Um,
Yes.
what
And
would
the
be what
beauty
would
about this podcast is that what's on your shirt right there speaks to what this podcast is about. and men sharpening each other, you know,
Yeah, man.
friends
Iron sharpens
sharpening
iron.
friends.
Iron sharpens iron. If you listen and you can't see the shirt, it's iron sharpens iron, man. From Positive Printz, man, from one of your businesses.
Yes, you know? And so I mean that's a proverb that's huge, man. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens another friend to that extent. And so it's just huge, man. Our conversations, I'm learning from you, and you may be grabbing some nuggets from me, and so that's how relationships are supposed to be. You know, and that's the same thing for with our kids. You know, we learn from our kids, and our kids learn from us. It shouldn't always be this, I am the adult, so you will do what I say, and you will always obey me. You know, it has to be, at least I think it should be a little bit of give and take there. And then as they get older, you may be learning a lot more than what you're giving. So who knows? But it should be definitely reciprocal.
Who can you say has sharpened you the most in your life and in your endeavors? Like, who's somebody who's really been a mentor for you, that sharpened you?
Oh my gosh, man, there's been so many. There's so many on different areas. Like I have a whole gang of virtual mentors that I'll never probably meet in this life. But I got a gang of virtual mentors that I listen to all the time. You know, in person, folks like me and my dad have a lot more conversations now than we did growing up. You know, and hearing his perspective on life and different things is very interesting. When I didn't hear much of that growing up, so his way of thinking is definitely tempered me to a certain extent, and caused me to think differently. There's a bunch of professionals that, you know, in different aspects of my life, and so mentorship has its seasons as well. And so through different seasons of life, I've had men and women mentors who have just planted seeds into me. You know, like we have like Reynolds from Kappa League back in the day. You know, just planted seeds from back then to now. A lot of men in my other fraternal organizations, and I got a laundry list of men and women who have added a ton of value to me. Some of my favorite virtual mentors are you know, the Jim Rohns of the world. I love listening to Jim Rohn, like constantly all the time. I think I have a list in one of my notebooks in here of some of the guys and gals who I listen to. And my wife, oh my God, she has molded me a ton. You know, she's the yin to my yang, to sound corny and cliche. But everything that I've taught, everything I said about me that I wish I would pass on, she's like the opposite of it. And so like the impact, like the selfishness, she's like hella loving and like will give everything. She's super empathetic to others, and it's just amazing. And she's flying in hard too.
Hey, that don't hurt. That helps. That helps.
Yeah, so I got a lot of folks who I can talk about. I'm adding to the list every day. Like I'm going through my notebook here. Like Myron Golden is a new guy who I just found out about. He's been pretty phenomenal. Craig Groeschel talks about leadership a ton. You know, obviously the Tony Robbins of the worlds, Evan Carmichael's of the worlds.
I've been listening to a lot of, I listen to Eric Thomas when I'll be working out. I'll put on some Eric Thomas when I'm working out.
Yeah, like, well, you kind of like the skinny ET out here too. I can see you getting ET.
ET, man. I'm like David Goggins, man.
ET.
David
Goggins. Oh my God, yeah, he's
that guy, man. And I just looked up the Fifth Agreement, and it's be skeptical and learn to listen. All right. So and being skeptical not just about other people, but be skeptical about what you say to yourself. Like the lies we tell ourselves, and learn to listen.
Pause and listen. Oh my God.
That's the Fifth Agreement. Yeah. So they definitely need to have that one. What's a gem that you've learned from your father? So I got two more questions for you. I'll let you get out of here. So
Oh man,
what's a gem that you learned from your father in your adult life that you said, you said you've been having a lot of conversations with him lately? What's a gem?
man, the one that always comes to me is I was frustrated about I was getting like messages that was like bothering me, and I was getting real frustrated by it. And my dad was like, why are you paying? Like, why are you listening to it? Like, why are you even paying attention to it?
Mm,
It's like I was getting some emails, and it was like that was a way of communicating back in the back in the day, or not even back in the day, but it's still a way of communicating. But I was getting a lot of emails, going through just having conversations, and people like emailing, and it was frustrating the heck out of me. And he was just like, "Why are you opening an email? Like, that's your choice.
mhm,
Like, what are you doing? Like, if it's bothering you, why are you opening the email?"
mhm.
I'm like, "You are absolutely right. Why am I opening?"
So
And that's
self-inflicted
stuck
right
with
now.
me. Like to this day, I've always stuck with me, and that's probably been maybe I don't know, almost 10 years now. And
Mm,
I'm like, whenever something is like, if I feel like I might be frustrated by a message or something, it's like, why am I even entertaining it?
mm. Protect
Like,
your
like
peace.
it's like, yeah, like you have a choice. Like you don't have to entertain it. I
Yeah,
literally do not have to entertain it.
I love it, man. I love that. You protect your peace at all costs.
Yeah,
um,
he's like really to himself. Like he don't do much. He don't go out or do any of that stuff. So he's like, hey man, I'm good by myself. And so
I,
it's like,
I like it, man. And so I guess the last thing I'll ask you, man, is like, I know it's like there's so much of it, but the fatherhood lesson, man, that you want to give to the listeners, like from your perspective, if you could leave anything, if you tell fathers anything, this is one nugget I want to leave with you. One or two nuggets. What would they be?
let me think about that. I'm looking at, I got these post-it notes in my desk here, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them is like, yeah, that might resonate. It's a couple of things here that could relate to fatherhood. And so it's one about staying patient, knowing that this is a journey. Like God willing, if it's God's will, our children are going to outlive us,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully, God willing, we live a long life physically. And so knowing that we got a long time horizon. There's another book, Infinite Games. I'm gonna check that out. Talk about the infinite game and the infinite player and the finite player.
Mm-hmm.
I think of fatherhood as an infinite game where
Mm-hmm.
there's no winners and losers. Just we all trying to stay in the game, and the rules may change as they get older, but we're trying to perpetuate the game. And I don't mean game in a lighthearted sense. I mean game in the fact that just it's an activity. It happens over and over and over and over again. And again, there's no winners and losers. So that whole respect and disrespect and all these things, not about who wins now, who wins later. We continue to keep that relationship going. And so we want to always be checking in on making sure that our decisions now have lasting impacts into the future, and that the future father, the future you will say thank you for the things that you've done at this moment in this stage of your fatherhood. So I would say it's a process. I would say enjoy the process. It's a journey, and remember that it is not about us as a father. It's definitely about making sure that the kids have the best experience on this earth as possible, that we can help mold them and
Mm-hmm.
create them or help them become good humans
Yeah.
They don't need to be they don't need to be us. They need to be good humans.
Right.
How we define humans. And so stay patient. It's a journey. You know, be an infinite player. Own your energy.
I love that, man. I love it's two things, especially that you say towards the end, is enjoy the journey, like, and enjoy the process, right? And they don't got to be us. They don't have to be. They're their own. They don't even belong to us. Like, they
real talk. They don't.
They don't even belong to us. And like, we like to think like, yeah, they are kids, but they don't belong. They their own people. We just here to guide them and make sure they survive. And like, and yeah, enjoy the process. Don't be sitting here. Hey, if you got going through some struggles right now, don't change your perspective on like, why is this happening to me? And like, just like, look, use it as an opportunity for growth and opportunity to like, I heard somewhere saying like, if you pray for patience, God don't give you patience. He gives you things that's going to test your patience. He gives you opportunities to be patient.
Oh,
he puts a wild 9-year-old in your life to give you plenty of opportunities to be patient. He don't just insert patience into your body, into your spirit. He gives you opportunity to practice it and master it.
You got to go through it. You gotta
go through it.
Yeah, gotta go through it. That's it.
Hey, man, listen, man. It's been such a pleasure having you on here, man, and talking about fatherhood.
I love it, man. It's a pleasure.
Where if anybody wants to, if anybody wants to grab the book, Live Long and Prosper, they want to get some T-shirts, Positive Printz, where can the people go to get your book or grab some T-shirts or things like that?
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Folks can connect with me through MatthewWagstaff.com. So that's MatthewWagstaff.com. There you can listen to the podcast. You can order the book. There's a couple of shirts on there as well, like the Build Legacy, Live Forever shirt. So that talks about a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Mm-hmm. So that's another proverb that's huge. And then Positive Printz. So that's Positive Printz with a Z at the end of it.com is where we have some inspirational, motivational, spiritually based clothes, T-shirts, based around positive messages and just helping each other just be better. And then you can also get customized shirts if you want as well there. And I'm on Instagram, Coach Matt Wagstaff, and Positive Printz are on there. It's a lot of different ways to get connected. Live Long and Prosper book has its own Instagram page too.
Yeah. Hey, reach out to my man, Matt Wagstaff, man. He's doing the damn thing as a father, as a business owner, entrepreneur, and as a man who's just trying to grow and be better. I appreciate you, man.
It's a journey.
So much, man. Thank you for blessing the podcast, brother.
That's it.
All right, man. I'm going to sign off here.
I love it, man.
Thanks for listening.